Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of the Amaryllis. In this section we're going to be first of all bending and then dusting the stamens and the pistil stigma and going to assemble those. Then we're going to basically tape and color the inside petals, and then we're going to assemble the two amaryllis, and then we're going to do the outside petals of those and also do the bud, and then we'll let the flowers dry and then we'll finish everything off. So let's get started. So we're going to take the stamens, and so obviously we've got 12 stamens, 6 and 6, and then we're going to bend them 50 millimeters long. So that includes the little the end of those. So just going to bend them. So it's like a sort of a little hammerhead, you can see. And so when you place them on the ruler or the size guide, just position them. So have the actual stamen laying like this, and then at 50 millimeters, which is basically 2 inches, just bend at a right angle. All right. So you'll obviously bend the 12 stamens, and then you'll have 6 and 6. The pistil stigma is going to be bent, actually that is going to be 63 millimeters, 2.5 inches. So that's actually easier to just measure in inches. So 2.5 inches. So again, bend that. That's a little stronger wire, but you can still use your tweezers, all right? So that will be how we would bend them. Next, we're going to move on to the coloring. I found it's easier to color these before you assemble them. So we're going to take a napkin, and then we're going to take the coloring. So what we're going to do is, so we're going to dust the stamen top 5 millimeters and the base using light apple and apple green, a 1-to-1 ratio. So we're using a light apple and an apple green. All right. So what I've done is just do like a spoon or 2 spoons of each. All right. So it's equal amounts, or you can just guesstimate that. And that's going to make a sort of a mid apple green color. And what we're going to do, and you can just put these, so these will be on the stamens. So we're just going to brush that about 5 millimeters on the end, and then the underneath part of the stamen. So you just brush the green on the base of the stamen as well. So just going to go just approximately 5 millimeters, and then a little bit of green on the underneath of those. So just take a little bit of the green. So it's just used almost like the width of the paintbrush. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit more, a little bit of green on the bottom. And you can do this obviously on all 12 of them. I'm just showing you 6. A little bit of green on the base. And then you're going to do the same. It's just easier to do this before you assemble it, because obviously of the shape of them. And there we go. A little bit of green there. All right. So you're going to do that on the stamen. So you'd obviously do all 12 of those. Then we're going to, then the rest of the stamen is going to be red. So we're going to use red. So this is red dusting powder. And that means that you're going to dust the rest of the stamen red. So the easiest way to do this is just sort of like lay it onto your napkin. And I'm using just a little flat brush, and it's going to go, so you're going to almost like get the red onto there. So just turn this over. Try not to get sort of red on the yellow stamens if you can. So you're just going to use your, so just move around on the napkin here. So you're just going to put a little soft red on there. And of course this will vary depending on the color of the amaryllis, you know. So if you're making a pink one, this will be usually a pink color. And it can be like yellow just on a white one. So very much like we would do a lily. Just going to put the red onto here. Remember, I'm just showing you one set. I've already got one assembled. So of course I decided to do 2 amaryllis flowers and a bud, so you get that sort of 3, which is a good balance. All right, but of course you could just do 1 flower as well. All right, so that's going to be then you're going to So then you're going to do red. And then we're going to dust the stamen top lightly with confectioner's glaze and dip in natural semolina. On air drying clay, you can use obviously glue or clear nail polish and dip in natural sand. Or of course you could use a semolina as well. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to just take some natural semolina, all right, which is almost like natural sand color. And you're going to take a little bit of confectioner's glaze. You just want a minimal amount, not too much on here, all right? So you're just going to put a little bit of glaze on the top and dip in the sand. So you just get a little bit of sort of the texture on there, all right? But it's quite subtle, so it's not a lot of glaze. You know, sometimes we're a bit, so you almost like on the lips. Two. But as I said, this could be just a little bit of PVA glue if it's air drying clay, or a little bit of clear nail polish. And then even on a sugar one, you can use clear nail polish as well, because obviously it's not going to be eaten because of the fact it has wires in it. All right, so these are going to be the stamens. All right, so that's just the sort of the base color. We're going to add a little bit more color, some ruby color, and then also we'll be adding some apple green on this as well. So those will be our stamens. All right, so there's sort of the coloring on the stamens. All right, next we're going to color the pistil. So we're just going to go back here. All right, so the pistil is the middle part here. And then we're going to then dust the pistil all over with red and a little light apple, the apple green, the light apple in the middle of the pistil. All right, so here we're going to brush the red all over this. And then you're going to brush the back of this part red. All right, so you're just going to dust the sort of the outside of almost like the little flower here with the red. And so the middle part is going to stay white. And then you're going to put just a little touch of green into the middle. So just a little tiny bit of green into the middle of the little pistil flower. All right, so that's going to be the first step. Now then what we're going to do is once we've done that, we're going to curve the stamens and pistil and arrange in a grouping. The pistil in the center and stamens around. So here what we're going to do is going to use my finger and just curl these slightly. You can do these all at the same time. Just give those a little curl. Now if your fingers are really sticky, you could put gloves on for this, or put a little bit of cornstarch on your fingers, because if your fingers are sticky, they will take the color off. But you can go back in with a little bit more color on there. It's quite subtle at this stage. Now, these are going to be arranged around, so we're going to use here the floral tape. So we're going to use half-width floral tape. So all I'm going to do is just going to arrange the stamens around the pistil, so that they're sort of surrounding it. So I usually do like 3 each side. So you should just do 3 each side, because we can bend them around a little bit. All right, so you're going to get the stamens. And then what you're going to do is going to take this is a 20 gauge wire. And then with a 20 gauge wire, you're going to tape those onto the end of the wire. It's going to come down with your half-width light green floral tape. All right, and then you're just going to arrange the stamens. So the stamens want to be almost going to be surround the. So I'm just going to put this. See, just going to move the stamens. Might get a little bit tangled up. So just sort of obviously just almost have them around there. So you see it's like a grouping of 6 of those around the stamens. All right. Now then you can go into I'm using a slightly bigger brush here. So if you need to just sort of put a little bit more red on there, you can do. But it's just easier to do it initially all over them. But you can just put a little bit of red onto those. All right. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of, then we're going to go a little bit of ruby on the bottom. So this is ruby, all right, which we've used before. So obviously you can see it's a darker red. So then this is the ruby will be dusted just sort of like towards the bottom, about 10 millimeters with the ruby. And then I'm going to actually just take straight, this is straight apple green. So this is the straight apple green color. And at the very, very bottom, I'm just going to dust that with the straight apple. All right. And there will be your two centers. So these give you your colors on the centers. All right. So these are your two centers, stamens ready for the petals next. So now we're going to move on. So I've got the dry petals, and so we're going to just tape the base of these as we've done on many, many projects. So we're going to take half width floral tape, go around, slide up to the bottom, tape down, push up to the bottom, and tape down. And also with air drying clay, you could even use 28 gauge wire, because remember, air drying clay is less than a quarter of the weight of obviously sugar one. So you see a 26 will hold this in sugar. But as I said, you know, so if you find it difficult to get the wire in, you can of course use even a slightly thinner wire, a 28 gauge wire for air drying clay, not for sugar. It wouldn't be strong enough. Now we're going to dust all over the basically 6 petals. So I'm going to use a red and ruby, a 2-to-1 ratio, so 2 parts. So again, you know, it's a good idea to use little tiny spoons like coffee spoons or little tiny spoons. So you would use like 2 spoons of the red and then 1 spoon of the ruby. All right, so this will sort of give you, because the red is a little bit orangey, and so I'm just brightening it up a little bit. And so I have this color. Of course, you can put gloves on for this, and I'm going to just brush that all over. So this is like your foundation if you think of obviously like makeup. So you're going to go all over with the, so this will have your nice base color, the undertone. So a little bit like when we do a poinsettia. All right, so that's going to go over all of the 6 petals. All right, so that'll be the base color. And then you're going to then do similar, where we're going to take 2 parts ruby and 1 part burgundy. So we're going to use 2 parts ruby, 1 part burgundy. This is all in your instructions. So this is again just going to give you a sort of slightly browny version of the ruby, which is a little bit pinky. You're going to get this darker color here. So we often mix colors like this. Sometimes it can just be a guesstimate, but here I'm using 2-to-1 ratio of both those colors. Now here we're going to use an angled flat brush or a flat brush, and I'm going to brush 3 stripes down the center, very much like you would do a peony. So you're going to start off at the base and just going to come down to the sort of the length of that central vein, and then just a line going out to the right and a line going out to the left. All right, so you have 1 down the middle, all right, then you have, as I said, the line here and the line here about halfway. And you're going to do the same on the back. So you're just going to get that sort of darker color onto there. All right. You do this on all of the, so down the middle into 1 line, and then the same on the base. All right, so that's going to be the base color. And then we're going to take the full strength apple green. So this is what we use on the very base of the stamens, this darker green here. So I'm just going to put just a little bit of that, just coming down just a few millimeters down the bottom, okay? And then about 1/3 of the way down the petal on the back, okay? So come about 1/3 of the way down the petal. So there's a little bit the bottom here and coming about a third of the way down the petal. Between a third and a half, but it's at least a third of the way down there. All right, so that's going to give you your coloring. So now we're going to color the bud, and then we're going to move on to assembly in the outside petals. So for the bud, we're going to take the 2 extra 20 gauge wires and place those against the base of the bud, and then we're going to tape. So just go around a couple of times to sort of start with the tape, and then you're going to tape down, just come down about halfway down the wire, going to go up, and then you're going to come down. So you're making it 3 times because the stem is quite thick, all right? And then just continue down to the bottom of the wire. You can just straighten out the bud. All right. Now dusting on the bud, I've partially got this one dusted. So what we're going to do is going to use just the apple green. All right. So what we're going to do is going to brush the apple green. This is just straight apple on the bottom sort of half of the bud. And then you're going to just sort of brush in sort of stripes. Just a few sort of stripes coming down here like this to get that sort of striped effect, just like the lily bud. And I'm going to use a little bit of red. So this is the red and the ruby. So that's going to be dusted. So almost like in between where the green is. So your green comes from the bottom about halfway up and then a little further up in stripes. And then the red comes from the top down. So you're just going to do this sort of softer lines of the color, and then you're going to use a little bit of the ruby burgundy. So this is the same color we used, and that's just right on the very, very tip. All right, and again, just in sort of like little stripes coming down there. All right, so you get a nice sort of shaded color. All right, so that will be the coloring that we're going to do on the pieces. So that is the initial coloring. Next, we're going to assemble the petals, the 3 petals and 3 petals. Now you need to leave your dusting powders out because when we do the outer petals, we'll need to dust the inside of the petals before we assemble it because you won't be able to get to those once it's assembled. Okay, so we then take the petals. Now we've obviously got 2 sets. We've got the ones that are a little bit more straight, the ones that are curled over more. So what you're going to do is take your pair of pliers directly at the bottom of the petal. Now the first petal you're going to sort of have bent like this, so it's actually coming down, and that is going to sit directly underneath the stamens. All right, so it's going to sit underneath the stamens at this point here. All right, so that's going to be like at 6 o'clock if you think of a clock. All right, so and then you're going to just go around a couple of times with your floral tape, and obviously make sure that those are directly underneath the stamens. So you see they're sort of sitting underneath the stamens like this. All right, and then you're going to take the next 2 petals, and these are just going to be bent at a slight angle. You think of like the bottom one is at 6 o'clock. This would be like around 10 o'clock, and then there will be one around 2 o'clock. All right, and we're going to put these in. So you're going to tape those. So there's one that's going to be taped here. All right, so you see this is the one at 6 o'clock, and then I've got one there about 10 o'clock, and then we will do one at around 2 o'clock. Now, of course, things like the longiflorum lily and St. Joseph lily and that, they're going to just be, the stem would be straight, but this is almost like a right angle. So you're going to tape these down. All right, so this is going to be your one here. All right, so you have the stamens will sit above so they will sit on the one at 6 o'clock, and then you'll have one at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Now you're going to take 2 more wires. You're going to take 2 more wires, put those right up against the base, and just go round a few times on the spot right at the top of there, and you're just going to just tape down. Just do a single tape in here. All right, so just gonna tape down to the bottom. So it's going to give you that sort of and then you're just going to move things. So you're putting them into a triangle. You can see that there you've got a grouping of stamens there. So you see you've got the one at 6 o'clock, all right, and then you have one at 2 o'clock and one at 10 o'clock. All right, now this one I'm going to sort of have a little bit more closed up. Now, when we do the outer petals are going to sit like this, all right? So obviously you can't have it too open. And once you've put the petals on there, you'll be able to move things if you needed to. But just need to make sure, as I said, you get it nice and tight at the bottom. And you can just open it out a little bit. And then you're going to do exactly the same. And on so this one here is going to just be a little bit, obviously this is more curled back. So you see that this one is going to be a little bit more curled back. And when we get the petals on, we'll be able to open them out a little bit. All right, so now what we're going to do is basically going to prep your paste. So we're going to do exactly the same as we did before. We're going to roll out about half to 2/3 of your paste. Number 4 or number 3 for air drying clay. We're going to cut out 3 petals and then we're going to vein them and do everything exactly the same, but except we won't have any wire in them. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going to get them cut out and then show you just how to do one of the petals, then how to attach them. So for the former, we're going to use, we need 2 paper drinking cones or snow cone cones. You can find these in plastic or paper, and you're going to cut about 40 millimeters off the ends. This is a technique we use for the plumeria and other things as well. All right, so you're just going to make a cone. This is very much like when a pet like a dog has a cone on from having veterinary surgery or whatever. It's just going to sit around to hold the flower. Anyway, so we're going to create that. Now we're going to roll out the paste, all right, and you're going to cut out 6 petals. So you can cut out 6 petals, so 3 and 3, put those into your flap, and you're going to do 3 at a time. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do exactly the same as we did before. The 2 exceptions, we don't have a wire in the petals, and also we won't hollow the base, all right? So we're going to take the petal out. All right, so first of all, you're going to lay this into your mold just like we did before. All right, so you're going to have a slightly wider base because obviously when we put the wire in, we pinch that. So don't worry if it comes over a little bit. We're going to press the cosmetic sponge in there. We're going to press in there. All right, and take that out of there. All right, so it gives you a line. And then we're going to then put it into just into the former, or into the, this is the extra large peony, into the veining mat, and just press that on the top. All right, and then we're going to then position this into the former. All right, with your cosmetic, just like we did before. So just following the exact directions before. All right, so just going to work around the edge. Then you're going to take the peony veiner, just press that just sort of on the edge, take that out. All right, so on the back of the petal, just like we did before, you're going to make a few little extra lines on the top there. We're going to frill top. All right, top half of the petal here. Going to turn it over. Just re-emphasize the main central vein especially. And of course before we then pinch the top, which we do, and then we hollow the base, which we don't do. All right, so we don't hollow and we don't put a wire in. Now what you're going to do is you're going to just position those, put them underneath a plastic pot. All right, now once you've got 3 of them done, now you can also use a piece of fun foam. If you're using classic gum paste or flower paste, I would suggest probably put them in a zip top bag. So if you put them on a piece of foam into a bag like we've done before, but with air drying clay or this is flexi paste, you can just put them under a pot. It just protects them a little bit from the air. And then what you're going to do is going to just take those, and we're going to now move on to the next step. So just work quickly. All right, now if you think you're going to be easier to do them one by one, that's also fine as well. All right, but just going to put those on. And then what I would do is I'm going to take the red base color. Now you don't need to worry too much about doing this all over, but you're just going to sort of do that in the area that's going to be visible, because we can get to this top part once it's finished, but we're going to just put a little bit of red. This is just on the front side only. And then we're going to do the ruby and burgundy stripe just down the center. You don't have to do the two side ones because you won't see those, because it would be impossible to get to there once it's assembled. And this is a technique we use on any flowers that are created like this, like parrot tulips or things like that. And then we're going to put just a little bit of green just down the bottom. So we don't have to do anything on the back, because we will be able to do that when the flower is dry. Okay. Next step is going to be to put some glue. All right, I'm putting glue on the bottom half, just on the edge. Now, if you have to dip your brush in again, just wipe it on your napkin, because if not, you'll contaminate your glue, because you're going to get a little bit of red on there. All right, you can just brush a little bit along the bottom there. Right, so we're going to take the flower. All right, now the petal, this is obviously the inside of the petal. We're going to take one petal, turn it over, and you can just position it at the bottom. So what I normally do is just sort of hold it there with my finger, and then you position it so it looks like it's sort of fairly evenly spaced with the green. And then I'm just going to go inside. So I'm going to put my finger inside. So what I can do is I can then just gently press the area you see that's glued. So the area that's glued, which is half the petal, is obviously going to be glued, and the top part is loose. All right, now when you do the first one, you're going to just make sure that that's put onto there, just gently rub. All right, now when you do the second and third one, make sure they look fairly evenly spaced, the gaps. And you're then going to do the second one. So you actually make sure your paste comes to the top, then look at it so it looks like it's evenly spaced, and then you can just gently put that on, go inside with your finger. So I've got this finger inside, because the thing is the petals are not on very strong wire, so if you press too hard it will collapse. And then you can just gently rub up to there. All right, so you see how the petals are going to go on there. And then when you put the last one on, make sure that looks sort of fairly evenly spaced. So hold the bottom of the petal, position that. And when you start putting the petals on, you'll realize if you need to close it up a little bit. Now, if there's a little tiny gap, don't worry too much about that, because we're going to build some paste around here after it's dried. We're going to build a little bit of extra paste around there. But if there is a little tiny gap, like there's a little tiny gap there, don't worry too much about that, because that will be, as long as you make sure, the important thing is to make sure the petals are stuck, all right? That's the important thing. So go inside there like that, all right? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take your little cup, we're going to take a paper clip, all right? And then what you do is don't turn this over, keep this upside down. All right, and you're going to lay this into the cup like this. All right, so this one wants to be a little bit closed up. Just need to use a little bit more glue here. And sometimes you'll find I need to just put a little bit more glue on here. Just needs a little bit more glue on that side, because when you have the dusting powder on there, so sometimes you just need to use a little bit more glue. But just make sure that they're sort of they're stuck on here. All right, so you're going to put your collar onto here. And you hold it up, and then you're going to use your paper clip. Now your paper clip is going to go on the bottom of this to support the collar. All right. And this one petal a little bit. Just going to put that onto there. And you can sort of hang this upside down for a few minutes, all right, until the petals sort of start to set a little bit. And then you'll be able to just sort of obviously almost maneuver this around, because it's going to sit into the former like this, and just sort of slide your paper clip up there as needed. All right, because you've got your flower sitting in here, but you can just sort of just bend it, like if you bend it a little bit of an angle, all right, a slight angle, then that will stay in place. Now then what you're going to do is going to put that into here like this, all right, and then that would be the small one, and then the large one would be done exactly the same way. Now the large one wants to sit like on the rim of, so it's not pulled down as far, so it's going to be sitting on the rim, and you see how it sort of it goes at an angle like this. And so you can see we've got the darker color, but we can go in there and put some more red, but we couldn't get in there with the green and things once that's dry. All right, so that will be, but as I said, the small one you can just sort of like almost like hang that upside down to dry a little bit, and then you can put the cup collar onto there, just because this one wants to sit a little bit more. I mean, you can actually even sort of let this dry upside down, but you see you want these petals to curl back a little bit. All right, and so that will obviously create that effect on that one, but you can put that into your cup, and you can do that. Now another way on the small one, the more open one, is you can also take like some pieces of foam, just like, again, we've done this technique before, and this will also be if you don't have the cardboard little cups as well, the drinking. Remember, these are drinking ice, these are for shaved ice, or for, as I said, water fountains and things. So, but you can also use, so this one here on the small one, so if you don't have you can just use your little bit of foam. That doesn't want to just be too big, but that wants to just go underneath those 3 outer petals, all right? So then you can hang that. So you can obviously hang that on a drying rack, but also you can let it dry a little bit like this, and then you can put it into your cone, into your drinking cone, all right? So basically the idea is we'll have two flowers. We're going to have a more open one, and then we'll have the one that is, so this is the more open one, so you can see here, all right? And so you have the more open one that's sitting actually on the rim there, and then but the paper clip works very well, and you just need to just sort of position the wire so the angle of the flower, you see how it's sort of really almost like sitting up like that, so it sits into the paper cup like this, and then you just need to let it dry a little bit. Now again, you're using air drying clay. Obviously air drying clay is a lot lighter and it's a little bit not so heavy, but with the flexi paste or with classic gum paste, I mean, you're just going to let it just sort of dry a little bit, and then you can just check that it's doing okay. Now we're going to let these dry, all right? So so you can let these dry obviously at room temperature, or obviously you can actually hang these in a food dehydrator. I probably would leave this about an hour or so, this one, in the larger cone, to obviously hold its shape a little bit, and then you can put this in the food dehydrator for a couple of hours to dry it off. And then the last step is we're going to come back and we're going to just obviously finish off the back of these and then assemble these ready to go into the arrangement. So once the flowers are dry, so I hung this in the food dehydrator, obviously just let them, probably best to let them dry overnight. You're going to obviously remove the foam if you use the foam pieces. So as I said, for the one that's like half open, that's probably the easiest way to support it, just with like almost like foam French fries or chips, and that will be. And then obviously the one in the collar, we're going to take that out of the former as well. Now, if you have a look at the petals and see that they've sort of attached okay. You know, with flexi paste and with air drying clay, as long as obviously there is a sort of contact there, they will be fine. But with especially with classic gum paste, if you find that you have a petal that has a lot sort of sitting away, obviously hasn't stuck, then you can take a little bit of softened paste. All right, so I'm using flexi paste. So obviously this could be air drying clay or could be classic gum paste. And then just use a water spray bottle, put a little bit of water in as we've done before, and you're going to make up almost a sort of a softened paste. And you can use that if you needed to. You would just obviously take a little bit of that paste, and you would then, if you needed to have any areas, you can use a little bit of that sort of with your like companion tool and just fill in. And then obviously with air drying clay or flexi paste, you can use a wet finger, or obviously don't do that on sugar because it will dissolve it. And then if you need to, you can put it back in a food dehydrator, just 10 or 15 minutes, all right? And that's really just, as I said, an optional step. But you know, when I teach classes, like with classic gum paste, and I've taught classes with flowers like this and lilies and that, sometimes we have a student that actually the petal disconnects completely. So what you would do there is just use that softened paste. So if you took it out of the former, let's say, and this shouldn't happen with obviously air drying clay or flexi paste, but if one of the petals actually came off, I mean, it didn't have enough egg white on it or glue, then you would just put some softened paste on the halves, stick them together, and then obviously dry this. All right, now at that point, so if you need to dry that, put it in a food dehydrator. We're actually going to start off with the, like almost like the little stem continuation on the bud. So anyway, we're going to take the bud. So we're going to measure this 20 millimeters down the stem. All right, so you want to take the bud. Now, the bud is going to sort of point is going to go up. All right, so you're going to go 20 millimeters from the end of there here, and then just hold that with your pliers and bend that at an angle like this, all right? Because the two flowers and the bud will come up at an angle like this, all right? So you're going to do that. And then once we've done that, we're going to brush a little glue 20 millimeters down the stem, all right? So that's really where this is bent. And we're going to measure off 3 number 6 small of the pale green, all right? Now this is the pale green left over, and you should have enough for this. And if you need a little bit more, just take a little bit of white and a little touch of foliage green or green. It doesn't matter if it's lighter or slightly darker, but you can even just add more white to this and then to have enough for this project and the calyx, all right? So you have number 6 small, so measure off 3 of these. And what we're gonna do is, then we're gonna just brush a little bit of glue, because if you have to do any fill-in, that would mean that while you're doing this, your obviously flowers will be in your food dehydrator. And you're gonna put a little bit of glue onto here. So you just brush some glue on that 20 millimeter part there. And all I'm going to do is take in the number 6 small. I'm literally going to sort of put this around like a tube, all right? So I'm going to use my finger here. I'm going to bring this up to the bottom of the bud. And this wants to be slightly sort of bulbous, all right? So you're just going to put this up to the bottom of the bud here, like that. And it wants to be a little bit bulbous on the bottom there. So just push that up. So it's going to come to meet the bud. And then you want to just sort of roll the bottom part of that with your fingers, all right? So you're going to get this sort of slightly, you see it's a little bit bulbous here at the top. And then it wants to just go on to the bottom here like that. So just going to roll that. So this wants to be, as I said, 20 millimeters. If you have a little bit, you can trim a little bit off of that. Just roll that with your fingers. All right, so this is going to be the 20 millimeter part there. And obviously with your air drying clay and flexi paste, you can take a wet finger if you want to. Obviously on a sugar one, just use your cornstarch. And then you're going to just gonna go around here. I'm going to take a little cornstarch, just sort of smooth that as you go. All right. And here on the bud, because it's going to be dusted green, you see, but you just have that little slightly bit bulbous part. All right, and it goes down. Okay. Now, then you're going to do exactly the same. Then you're going to repeat on the flowers. All right, so here's the flowers. So again, we're going to take, I've already done one of my flowers. I'm going to show you, just be careful when you're doing this bending, but 20 millimeters down. All right, and so then you're going to bend this away from you. So again, it's going to go like this. And then we're going to take the number 6 small. Going to put the glue here. So with your glue, again, going to put the glue on the stem, the 20 millimeters on the stem there. So that's one way you can obviously do is to just wrap a sausage. Another way is you can actually slide this up the wire if you prefer. So just make that into a little sausage. So just showing you about 2 different options there. Put a hole through that. And you thread this up the wire. So you thread it up the wire like that. And then you're going to start to work the paste down. Remember, you want this sort of bulbous part. So this is going to be, almost think of like when we made the plumeria. It's almost this little is going to sort of sit around. So it's actually a little easier on the flower because you have almost like a cone. So you're making this little sort of like a calyx on the bottom. And then you're just going to do this extension. So just roll that with your fingers. Just bring that down. Smooth that. And again, that will just sort of sit on the bottom. But you have this little sort of bulbous part there. All right. And you can just almost blend that into the flower because it's going to all be dusted green. Just stretch that down to the 20 millimeters. All right. So that will be on both the flowers. And I've already got this one and I've already dusted this with the same as on the flower here as well. All right. So next step is going to be, we're going to be dusting the flowers to match. All right. So and this will be like when you are doing the flower like this, like a lily or whatever, at least Easter lily, you use the same technique. So we're going to go in with our colors. So we're going to use exactly the same colors. So this is the 2 parts red, 1 part ruby. All right, so we're going to do that first. So you can just brush that on the back. All right, so you do that obviously on all 3 of the petals. Remember, don't worry of this little highlights of the original color because that's obviously going to give you that beautiful coloring when we finish it all off later. So, and again, on the inside petal, because remember when we put those petals on, you need a little bit more red on the edge of those. You can do that. Then we're going to take so this is the darker color. All right, so this is the 2 parts ruby to 1 part burgundy. So you're going to do like we did on the inside petals. You're going to do the 3 lines, 1, 2, 3. It's got a little bit too much dust on there. There we go. So you have the dust on there. All right, so you're going to get that sort of that darker color on the back of that. And then you're going to take, so then we're going to use the green. All right, so you're going to brush about 1/3 to half the way round. And you're pretty much on this bottom part here, you're going to dust green all the way round, okay? And if you feel more comfortable letting this part dry, you know, so this is a flower you're going to do over a couple of day period. But if you're careful, you can just sort of obviously do this straight away. But you're going to dust that with the green. And of course, the air drying clay especially dries very quickly. Just going to put a little bit of green on there. All right, so you're just going to dust that back part of the green, okay, and down here. You will do the same on the bud. So obviously you're just going to blend that color so it comes up to the base of the bud to be your, so it looks almost like a tulip bud, but you can use this for tulips as well, like your straight nose. Now next we're going to make the stem. Now the stem of a amaryllis is quite thick, all right, so there are a couple of options here. So when we're going to, so I'm just going to bring this in. All right, so what we're going to use is we're going to use bubble tea straws, all right, because this is the sort of the, and then the bubble tea straw is going to be what we're going to use for the stems. Now, bubble tea straws, we're actually just going to use a piece here about 9 centimeters long. So we're going to use just a fairly short tube, because we're going to do this in a container, or you can do it into a cake dummy, which you could use then as a topper for a wedding cake. But we only need a small piece, because if you bought cut amaryllis, they're usually going to have a sort of a longer stem. But the bubble tea straws, you can also tape these together. So you can actually take them. This particular one, most bubble tea straws have an angled cut on the end of them. And so what you can then do is you could just take some tape. So if you wanted to make this like, especially in air drying clay, so you just tape around a couple of times with some sellotape, scotch tape, and that means you can make a long stem. So and then you actually could make a bulb, the actual bulb part, the top of the bulb. So then you could, of course, also make leaves, which I'm going to talk about in a later episode when we do the foliage. You can, of course, make leaves. So you could actually do this as almost like an air drying clay amaryllis in flower. All right. But we're going to use this like obviously a floral designer would. So anyway, first thing we're going to do is going to tape the amaryllis together. So we're going to take the 2 amaryllis flowers and the bud. Now, as I'm looking towards it, I'm putting the smaller, slightly tighter one, the one that's a little bit straight to the right, as I'm looking at it to the right of the, so like this. All right, okay, and we're going to just tape that together. I'm going to use half-width tape, so the point where the green intersects. So just put those together first. They will almost just sort of sit like this, all right? And then we're going to take the bud, and the bud is going to sit, again, just bend that. So that sort of sits into, you almost will have this sort of triangle. And then I'm going to tape that together. All right. Now, if you were just going to use this where you wouldn't see the stem, all right, and really, in fact, in our arrangement, we won't really see the stem, but I'm teaching you, obviously, skills and things. You could just tape down this, and then you could just obviously tape up and down a couple of times. And then, of course, you could stick this in your cake. You'd stick it into a tube there. So I'm just going to almost just double over there. I don't need to worry too much because we're going to cover this with a tube in. All right. And I'm just going to come down to the end here. Be a little careful of those wires. And if you've got sort of like a longer wire, you can trim that off. But I'm going to, obviously going to cut some of this off in a few minutes time. So you see you'll have your flower. So this will be like obviously the amaryllis when it grows. But as I said, when amaryllis grow, obviously their stem is quite thick. It's like this sort of thickness, you see? So that bubble tea straw makes a perfect, and in fact, you could even use the green one, but we're going to cover this with paste, so it looks obviously more natural. All right, bubble tea straws you can buy obviously in any Asian grocery store, on Amazon and things as well. And they're all usually a standard size, all right? And it's just, as I said, they usually have this angled part. You can tape it to make this longer. Now, the project in your requirements for the paste, all right, where obviously that amount is for just the smaller one, because what we're going to do is we're going to cover a section, a 9 centimeter section of bubble tea straw, and then that's actually going to slide. See, this is going to go up the stem, and then we're going to have almost like the calyx, and this will be dusted, all right? And this will be like if you cut off the amaryllis and put it into a vase, how a floral designer would use them. So what we're going to do is, so moving on to here, so we're going to sort of, so once we get the, moving on to the pieces there, we're going to cut the main stem to 12 centimeters or longer if desired. So of course, if you wanted to make a long amaryllis in a pot, all right, you of course could add some extra wires or a bamboo skewer here. What we're going to do is we're going to cut that to about 12 centimeters approximately. All right, so you just have to do that. Just be a little bit careful. You're just going to use your pliers, but be very careful with your fingers. All right, so we cut that to 12 centimeters, all right? And what I'm gonna do is then I'm gonna cut my bubble tea straw. So I'm gonna cut a section of bubble tea straw that is gonna be 9 centimeters long. All right, so this is actually about 9 centimeters. Oop, lost that one. So 9 centimeters long. All right, so this is going to be our actual tubing. All right, what we're going to do now. Just talking about this technique, so this obviously is going to slide up like a cover, very much like when I do calyx. And obviously in my videos on calyx, I've shown a technique of using a poly dowel and then covering it with tape and then sliding it up. Now something else that you can use, which works very well here, is also these are hair rollers. All right, these are foam hair rollers. All right, and so when you buy the foam hair rollers, you just have like a little plastic thing, you just take that off, and so it has a wire in the inside of it. Now, so if you were doing just like, for example, a single amaryllis, or this could be also used for bird of paradise, what you do is you keep the wire in there, and of course this we could then cover with paste. All right, so we can cover this with paste or with floral tape, but also that means if you're doing a bird of paradise, which usually are straight, your tubing would just go on there. So if you're doing something that is straight, like the amaryllis only has a straight stem, you could take the wire out of this. All right, so you can take the wire out of it. But if you want to do, for example, a stem that you want to, so you actually could take off this little end piece here. So you could take that little end piece off there, off both ends. And of course you could also replace that with an 18 gauge wire. You just put the wire back in there, and then you actually would slide, say, the stem of the bird of paradise, or if you wanted to do something you bend, put that into there. But it also means once you've covered it, you see, then you can actually bend that at an angle. All right, so that means you could use the same technique when you use a bubble tea straw, but you have the flexibility to be able to bend this. All right, or if you were doing like an arrangement where you wanted to look like the amaryllis is growing out of the cake, you could actually use this technique as well. Now, because that stem is quite a little thicker, that won't fit in this type of straw. But for a single flower like one bird of paradise or one amaryllis, it will work very well. All right. But anyway, so just sort of showing you different techniques. But so we've got our 9 centimeter section of the straw here. All right. And then we're going to take a number 11 foliage green, and we're going to roll it out 9 centimeters long and 5 centimeters wide, and then go through the pasta machine. So I'm going to show you that next. So I've made this, make a sausage about 9 centimeters long, and then you're going to make it with a rolling pin at least about 5 centimeters wide, because we're going to use this to cover the tube. This is going to go through the pasta machine. So I'm going to go through the pasta machine on number 4, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're going to cut one end square and the bottom edge square and brush over with glue. All right, so I'm going to just cut this, and then I'm going to just cut one edge square, and I will put glue over this. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue, PVA glue. You know, though air drying clay sticks to itself, when you really want to make sure it sticks, I would use glue. All right. Now you can water down the PVA glue if it's a little thick as well, with a little bit of water. So you're going to do this, and then we will take the piece of tubing. So this is the 9. And you can do that on you can place it onto a piece of foam. And what you're going to do is going to put that onto there. You're going to roll. All right. And then when you get to this part here, you're just going to cut that. You can have a slight, very, very slight overlap. All right. And then at the end here, this is the other end. You just cut that like you would. So you're just going to just trim that with your scissors or your little knife. All right. And you can just roll that a little bit. And again, like if this was air drying clay or flexi paste, which I'm using here, just going to take a wet finger, and just with your air drying clay or your wet finger. Now with sugar, you're just going to have a very, very slight seam, but that really won't be visible. We'll just sort of roll it on the table, and you see how you're just going to roll that and that will just, as I said, disappear. Remember, you can do that with a starch-based product, or as I said, because actually air drying clay is a paper, it's like wafer paper based, and so the thing is, it's a starch base as well. So that's why we can use the wet finger. All right. So you see, you've actually covered that like a little, and then you can just put that. Again, just pop that in the food dehydrator for a few minutes, just for the water to dry, and that will be the how we make the tubing. This one, as you see, is dry. So now we're going to move on to like the calyx, all right? So in your instructions, it says we're going to take 2 number 6 large, 1/4 below, 3/4 above of the pale green. So we're going to use the same pale green. Now, because we've used the foliage, if you don't have enough to make the 2 6 large left over from the bud and from obviously the little the calyx like tubular part I did, you can just take a little bit of this and just mix it with some white, all right? It doesn't matter if it's a slightly different color. So anyway, but we're going to use 2 number 6 small. So remember, number 6 small is going to be, number 6 large will be that it's have 1/4 below, 3/4 above. So it's a generous size. Remember, they're still a lot smaller than number 7. But as I said, this will be classed as a 6 large. Now, this is the Cymbidium orchid, all right? So this is the sepal of the Cymbidium orchid. That's a straight one. And in fact, following with our, obviously, Christmas flowers, we're going to be using this for the French tulip, all right? So we'll be using this in the continuation with the French tulip and the paperwhite. So we'll be using this for the French tulip petals. So we're going to put a little tiny bit of shortening vegetable fat into the cavity. This is the straight one, all right? But this is the use for the head and the 2 legs on the Cymbidium. And then you're going to roll that into a little sausage. All right, so we're going to roll that into a little sausage and press that into the mold. This will actually be the same size we use for the French tulip as well, piece of paste. So you're going to, so this will make quite a thin, because this is sort of papery. If you think of daffodil, this is just like on a daffodil, when we did a daffodil, sort of that little sort of brown papery, like almost parchment paper look. That's the same as we have here. All right, so I'm going to push this in, and then I'm going to use the back. I'm going to use a peony veinner, peony back veinner. You could also use a lily as well, but we've been using the peony. So as a peony or lily back veinner, I'm using the peony one here. And then I'm going to take that out of the mold. And on the back of it, which is just a smooth side, the one that's got the big, heavier vein, that will be obviously the front. But on this part here, so we're then going to work. So you're going to either use your companion tool, you ruffle the sort of top half, or you can use the ball tool like we did for the petals, right? But that's just on the top half of the petal. Okay, and place it onto your cosmetic sponge, and then with your companion tool, we're just going to vein down the middle. All right, so then you of course put that under a little cup, and then you will have another one. So you have 2 of these. All right, so those are both ready to go. And we're going to brush glue. So we're going to brush glue on the bottom half of these. So you're going to brush your glue on the bottom half. Again, with air drying clay, you don't need to put any glue on here because these will stick to themselves, all right? Unless you feel your paste is a little dry or whatever, you can use a little bit of glue. And we're going to think of this as like almost when we do the wrap a calorie round or a rose. So you have 2, you've got 2 of these, all right? So what we're going to do, you're going to take one of them, it doesn't matter where this sits, and this is going to sit like up there a little tiny bit, and you attach the left-hand side around the wire. Need a little bit more glue on here. All right, so you're going to just attach the left-hand side around here. Think of this a bit like making a rose. All right, and then the second one is going to tuck inside that one. So it's going to tuck inside and then wrap around. All right, so going to go around here. So it's a little bit sticky, but to put too much glue on now. And so then they will just, you need to use a little bit of, there we go. All right, so they will just wrap around there like so. They're quite thin, all right, and just going to mold them at the bottom. So they will sort of sit like a like a little calyx. So it's almost like two callalys entwined. All right, so just gonna bring that one down a little bit. There we go. And so they just sort of sit around. So you see, and then you can just use a little bit more glue, and then you just sort of glue it into place. All right, so you're just going to use a little bit of glue, but I'm just rolling those around like you would a callally. So now once you've got them on there, all right, you're just going to just tape those and come down a little way with here. All right, now once you get to that point, so there's going to be a sort of obviously dusted as well. So this will be with a sort of the green, a little bit of red once it's dried a little bit. What we're then going to do is we're going to take this is the one that's dried off. And so then we're going to take that and going to just blend this down. And this is going to fit up here. All right, so just going to mold that down with your fingers here. And you want and you're going to put this on. So this will sort of sit up to the top here like this. Now remember, it's going to be, this will be dusted. So you're going to put that on to there. And then you can just lay this down. And then what we're going to do is going to need to use some paste. Now, you can use flour paste, gum paste, flexi paste, air drying clay, basically anything here. What we're going to do is we're going to make a sort of a plug because we want to secure this top piece. All right, so just going to mold that around. Just make sure that, because this is the front, so you want to have the seam at the back here. All right, so you can just take a little bit of paste. And you're going to put that into there. So just need to support this on your hand and you just want to just roll that little bit of sausage of paste. All right, and then just put like a little plug of that into the bottom there. All right, so you just have to sort of support, see I'm supporting this on my hand. And then you're just going to just plug that. As I said, this can be some little bit of, I'm just using here some white fondant. All right, so I'm just going to plug that into the bottom there. All right. Just make sure, as I said, that stem on there, because this is all going to be dusted. This will be dusted, and you're going to have your little part here. If you have a little. All right. And then what you're going to do is this needs to dry for a couple of minutes. All right. So you can take two options here, because you've got a little bit of wire there at the bottom. You can take this wire and then you can take this and stick it into your styrofoam block. And then you're going to, just as I said, just let that dry a little bit before we dust this. This will be the little, like almost the calyx on the top there. Or you could lay that on the crate foam former, and this could go in the food dehydrator. So when I come back, I'm just going to show you the last little part of this. So a couple of things. First of all, you can also use a little bit of hot glue around the bottom. So when you put the tube in on, you could say, if you have a hot glue gun, put a little bit of hot glue, a little like we do calyx, that will set the tube in, and then you can plug it, or as I said, just use hot glue, but just be very careful. All right, now you might want to put gloves. Obviously your tube in doesn't have dust on it, but you might want to just put gloves on just to sort of support the flower, because remember, if your fingers are sticky, you're gonna hit the bud or lay the bud on your hand, it can take the color off, but also you can just check that everything is okay. All right, now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna take the green, all right, and if you put that into a block of styrofoam, what you're going to do is you're going to brush green all over the calyx, all right? This is still moving a little bit because I've used flexi paste, but obviously if you're using air drying clay or sugar, that will dry. So you just get a sort of the green on the calyx and dust into the middle there, you see? So that's sort of where the stems will come from. And then we're also going to use a slightly larger brush. Just going to brush onto the stem. The easy way to do this is to just put it on a block of styrofoam. And if you want to cover your block with a little bit of plastic wrap, press and seal, you can do. But you're just going to brush the green so that will sort of match onto the stem. All right. Now, of course, this could be a longer stem, and you'd obviously can extend the wire. Now, I cut the wire to 12 centimeters. If you want to cut the wire or leave it at full length to have more wire to hold on to, that's also totally fine. It's whatever you feel more comfortable with. If you have any little areas where you can see, you just need to go in and touch that. And then we're going to use this is the red. So we're just brushing a little bit of that onto the edge. All right, so just where the edge of the calyx, just put a little bit of the red right on the very edge. But just, it's best to let that sort of dry. So I've left it just a little while, but if you let it totally dry, it's going to be better. All right. Okay, and then once we've done that, we're going to, next step is going to just steam everything. So we're just going to steam the whole, obviously everything, and you're just going to hold it in the styrofoam block, and then we will steam this, and this will obviously finish off the amaryllis. So a really stunning flower, and so this is going to sit in the front of our container. All right, we're going to have obviously in the next two parts, we're going to be using French tulips, in white French tulips, and also paper whites. All right, and obviously they're going to look really fabulous. Then we're going to do foliage and just different evergreens. So just going to steam this gently. All right, so just going to steam this. Remember, don't tip the steamer. Just going to gently steam this. Or of course with air drying clay, just to give that a really good hit with hairspray. All right, as I said, you can just get the steam into the flower there. Sorry, I'm fucking up the camera lens. There we go. There we are. And so here we have our magnificent amaryllis, all right, all ready for going into the container in December. So I hope you've enjoyed the amaryllis, and we'll have a lot of fun making this flower. Remember, very versatile flower, and pretty much, although it is more of a winter flowering flower, it can be grown in gardens. So actually I grow amaryllis and things, so you could pretty much use this any time of year, and it's a nice alternative on a Christmas arrangement instead of a poinsettia, a little bit more contemporary. And then also could be used for, say, a 40th wedding anniversary. Obviously the apple blossom one, which was my grandmother's favorite, is a sort of pink and white one that's really pretty in spring for a wedding cakes, an alternative. And if you want a big wow factor flower, the amaryllis is it. Till next time, sweet wishes, bye.